Put on some makeup, so you'll be ready for that. No.
Yeah, I can't see why. So that lady, one of their nurses, drives in from out there at that, what's that ranch out there with the caves? Recapture Ranch? Not Recapture Ranch, it's, yeah, that Perkins community. So she's driving from there past LaSalle into here, into Blanding. Every day.
Paradox.
Yeah.
Not
every day.
paradox. Really?
Yeah. So you tell me she can't stop in LaSalle, and that's going to cost you more? Put the mobile unit out there. It doesn't cost you
I
anything.
agree.
Just sit it there.
Okay, we're ready to start our commission meeting. We welcome everybody here. We have all three commissioners present, and we have a fairly large agenda, but I think most of those items can go pretty quick. So we offer the audience a chance to help us with our invocation. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to say the invocation today? John, will you?
Our kind and gracious Father in heaven, we are appreciative of the opportunity we have to meet together in this San Juan County Commission meeting today. We're grateful for the leaders of our county and for their efforts to accomplish good here in this area. We're grateful for the time and dedication that they put in. We're grateful for this beautiful and wonderful area where we live and work. We pray that thy spirit will attend the meeting today and that decisions will be made that are for the benefit of our county residents and others. We pray that our county commissioners and those that are making these decisions will be the beneficiaries of thy guidance. And we ask this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. We all please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize for my voice today. I've had a bout with hay fever for about the last 2 months. It's in my throat, it's in my eyes, it's in my ears. I can't get rid of it, but we'll try and go on here. So we have a public comment portion to our meeting. We'll turn that time over to Mac to help us with the public comment portion.
All right, appreciate that. So public comment period, we'll take those that are in here first in the audience, and then those that are online after that. If you are online, there's a function where you can raise your hand. If you highlight your name, you should be able to click on it to raise your hand, and we would recognize you, those that are raising your hand. If you're unable to find that functionality on Zoom, then as we ask, we'll ask those of you to unmute yourselves, at which time you can do so, and that we would recognize you then. With the public comment period, the public comments, we allow 3 minutes for each public comment. Just be nice and obedient with your comments. With that also being said, don't anticipate that this is an opportunity to have a dialogue with the commission. This is a public comment period for them to hear the public, not necessarily exchange in a dialogue. However, if they choose to do so, that is up to the commissioners, but we do try to avoid having a public hearing that is unannounced. And so with that being said, we will proceed down the list. When you come up to the podium, please just state your name and where you reside in the county. The first one, I have a Brent Johansson. that signed up?
Good morning, Commissioners. I know all of you. My name is Brent Johansson. I live in Blanding, Utah. I am the current president of San Juan Public Entry and Access Rights, also known as SPEAR. And I'm also on the organizing committee for the San Juan ATV Safari. And I'm here, and John and Jody, and to talk about some of the land issues that we're seeing. We had a meeting several weeks ago about the conservation permits that are going to be opened up. And that's probably my biggest concern right now. Once the conservation entities purchase a permit, it's going to be there in perpetuity. I just hate to see that happen, because when that happens, then everything that we enjoy as residents of San Juan County is going to be limited. Our San Juan County trail system, John's going to talk in detail about that. But that's a great recreational opportunity for not only us as residents, but also people coming into our county. I'd hate to see that be lost. Also, our San Juan ATV Safari, we've got over 100 people signed up already. It's the most we've ever had signed up this early. So we're probably looking at least 200 people coming down and spending 4 days with us. We look forward to that and enjoy that. John has quite a bit to talk, and I'd like to donate the rest of my time, if possible, to John and let him fill you in on some things.
All right,
Go ahead, John.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here as always, and we appreciate your support of public land access concerns and that over the years. If you don't mind, I'm going to read through this comment, because if I don't, I tend to just wander off into, and then if you have any questions, and it shouldn't take. I appreciate the introduction that Brent made. Brent's the president of SPEAR. Jody is the secretary treasurer, and I just kind of hang around. But initially, a bit of context. Using long-established roads and trails for motorized access to some of the truly special places in San Juan County is a significant and long-standing aspect of the lives of many local residents. Social and family excursions to places like Arch Canyon, Dark Canyon via the Peavine Corridor, Cedar Mesa, Indian Creek, Jacob's Chair, and Paiute Pass, Tables of the Sun, Shea Ridge, and many others are a local cultural tradition and a source of great enjoyment and memories. For many residents, these opportunities are an important reason for being here and for residing in San Juan County. Motorized access is a cherished part of our culture, local culture. Additionally and significantly, motorized access to these attractions provides the only sightseeing options for many elderly and disabled residents and visitors. It goes without saying that these opportunities are also a strong draw for visitors to our county and provide a substantial boost to our local economies. In recent decades, the federal land management agencies have shown an increasing tendency to ignore and run roughshod over our traditional opportunities for motorized access. There are a multitude of examples, but one I'd like to cite is the BLM travel plan that was developed following the development of the adoption of the 2008 Resource Management Plan. In that travel plan, fully 10% of the D roads on lands managed by the Monticello office of the BLM were closed. That's over 300 miles of backcountry roads. We are concerned that the resource management plan currently being developed by the federal agencies for Bears Ears National Monument, along with cooperating partners who are working with them, will continue and possibly accelerate this trend. The second topic, a related topic, I'd like to mention the San Juan County ATV OHV trail system. Some years ago, in an effort to promote and protect some of the better-known trails, the county adopted an ATV OHV trail system travel plan. Due to the county's efforts as a cooperating agency, language recognizing this trail system was included in the resource management plan of the Trump-era monument, the Bears Ears National Monument. The language included was this, that in the resource management plan, actual travel management is not considered other than to provide general guidelines for future travel management planning efforts. But the language in that plan, the Trump area plan, was implementation level travel planning in SRMAs, these are recreation areas, and ERMAs will recognize the San Juan County OHV route system and integrate it to the extent possible in travel management and recreational goals and objectives. In other words, in the Trump era monument, the San Juan County ATV OHV travel plan was recognized, and a commitment to include it in future travel management activities was committed to. As language said, to the extent possible from the federal manager's perspective. During the public comment period for scoping the new Bears Ears RMP, Spear and many of our members made comments urging the inclusion of similar language in the plan currently being developed for the new Bears Ears National Monument. Based on information on the BLM website, it appears that plan alternatives are currently being formulated. Spear is not a party in those discussions, but San Juan County, because of your role as a cooperating agency, is participating in those discussions of the alternatives and the ultimate resource management plan. The bottom line is our request for you. We would ask that San Juan County, in its role as a cooperating agency, strongly advocate for the inclusion of similar language in the alternatives and the RMP currently being developed. A public declaration or resolution to this effect might add weight to the county's position because of the non-disclosure agreements that you've signed as a cooperating agency in conjunction with your participation in the planning effort. It may or may not be appropriate for you to, but I think it would be appropriate. I think other cooperating agencies have a public statement of their positions relative to the development of the RMP. And we would urge the county to consider our request that similar language to the Trump area monument be also included in the RMP for the Obama monument, the revised monument. And that's our request today. So thank you.
John, can you expand a little bit on the first thing you talked about, the conservation permits?
Well, that was Brent that discussed those.
So,
I am not somebody that knows a great deal about that.
Brent, what do you, I don't understand them. Are they like grazing permits?
They're like grazing permits, only the conservation entities would just lock it up and close everything.
So does the BLM have, or the Forest Service have available conservation permits that can be leased?
They will be as soon as it's passed.
Oh, they're just formulating those conservation permits right now.
And the scary part is that anybody can purchase them.
Where's your stubs?
It can be a foreign entity that can come and buy those preservation. And once you have those leases for 30 whatever plus years, limited, where cattle or people, nobody can cross those areas. And one of the worries that sometimes we're not talking about is that what's going to do to a forest or fire if you have sections, land, the overgrown nature is going to take over because there's nobody there to control it. And who's going to be responsible for those fires? Was it be the county? Is going to be the government, or be those who's
Well,
gonna be there to control?
My concern is these conservation permits, are they gonna take in land that is in grazing permits right now?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Nick?
This is a business and action item on the agenda for today. There's a comment letter for the commissioners to
To sign.
consider with
Yeah.
comments on this proposed rule.
Yeah,
I can't imagine this is not the most detrimental thing I've heard of
yeah.
in recent.
It is, it's very important that people find ways to make their voice heard. As far as what we're gonna be dealing, it's not worse than anything we have ever dealt with
Well,
land
I'm sure
management.
the county's gonna oppose this vigorously, right, Nick?
But we have a letter.
In our
yeah.
letter?
Yeah, we have a letter.
That would be
signed.
my guess. Flipco and UAC have
Yeah.
made comments against
Yeah,
the proposed
Yeah.
rule.
yeah.
You three are the only three that have any semblance of power and authority. You know, we as citizens.
Well, this county's in trouble then.
There are people there. We have had two meetings on this. We have had one meeting here in Monticello, and we have had a meeting in Blanding. And there's organizations that getting together to have letters. And if you wanna know more, I can kind of let you. But I think it's very important that people in the county here make their voice heard too, because sometimes they
Okay.
have more power too. So, but
Jamie?
there's letters that we have to sign to them.
I know we're in public comment period, but I just wanted to ask, there was a recommendation for a resolution. Can we add that onto our agenda today?
They have
Or
something-
let's go through today's
We have
discussion
something, yeah.
and the action items on there, and then let's
Yeah.
see if
Yeah.
that's where you want to go.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you bringing these things to our, we get so many requests and sometimes we lose track a little bit. Some of us are getting a little older.
Well, this was creeped in recently.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, is there with the public comments? Just go to online,
Okay.
just in case. Thanks. Is there anyone online wishing to make a public comment? I don't see any hands raised on here. So if you do wish to make a public comment, go ahead and unmute yourself. Not seeing very many people online. Commissioner Adams, I'm not seeing anybody unmute themselves. That's
Okay,
comment.
is there anybody else in the room that wants to make a public comment? Okay, we'll move on our agenda. We're down to our consent agenda. I think there's only two items. The approval of the check register and the small purchase of the annual prescription. A subscription, not prescription, subscription. Okay, do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda today?
I'll make that motion, Commissioner.
Okay, motion by Jamie,
A second.
second by Sylvia. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Recommendations, presentations, and information items. The San Juan Historical Commission presentation, who's going to make that?
I had this request from Nancy, the
Kimberly?
Historic Commission.
Kimberly?
Yes, Nancy Kimberly. I'm not seeing anybody here from the Historic Commission. If not, let's just skip this item and then I can bring her in the
Okay.
next work session. And so,
Okay, next on our commission is item number 4, consideration and approval of a contract for $18,000 with the American Stewards of Liberty, MAC.
okay, this one kind of goes in line in coordination with the public comments that you had just heard and the frustration I think that members of our public, we see these issues that are taking place at a higher level, a federal level. And, you know, as the county, we've been asked to be a cooperating agency. And you know, in the most recent years in the past, we had refused to be that here in San Juan County, especially with Bears Ears, we've had positions on the advisory board for Bears Ears, and that was kind of taken away from us with current administration, and we're glad for the new ask. But it just seems as we go through and you have the BLM or Forest Service enacting these plans, they do offer opportunities for citizen comments. But typically, when they're asking for those citizen comments, is when they've laid out alternatives to the changes in the plan. But there's really no involvement in the plan. And you heard in the public comments the request for consideration of language to be added into the resource management plans of the BLM as they consider the Obama Bears Ears side of it. Well, as we look at that, and we do have Nick. Nick is awesome. He's been great about going through our public lands and drafting these support letters and coordinating on that effort. County staff, we do coordinate with BLM. Our coordination is typically operational in nature, where, if they have an event coming up, we're aware of the event, or if they have closures, we're aware of those closures. We also coordinate our efforts. If there are things that we're trying to promote in the county, then we'll coordinate those efforts of promotion to BLM. One of the things that we looked at and tried to encourage this last year is throughout Bears Ears, we continue to have a problem where tourists go out into these areas and try to recreate. There's not a lot of signage throughout the county where Bears Ears is, where's the entrance. And so we get tourists that are stuck out in there. It calls out search and rescue and people to come and pull the tourists out of their Tesla that's now stuck in sand, with the lack of just information across the board that isn't being placed by these federal agencies. What this is, the contract in American Standards of Liberty is an entity that will help us coordinate efforts, and it's more putting us in a position with the federal agencies to have more of an active role, more of a coordinating effort at a public and an elected official level. And this, I would also include, the cities and towns here who have a strong voice and a strong concern of what lands are being conserved and which roads are going to be closed. And as we look at the county's resource management plan, it's making sure that those federal agencies are also paying homage to that, and that they are looking at our resource management plans at a local level. And we're trying to steer these plans and planning efforts more at a local level in coordination with BLM and Forest Service. And it's not a lip service after the fact where they give us alternatives. It's actually setting up meetings where we're an active role and an active participant through those planning efforts. Instead of at the end, here's option A and option B, it's actually sitting with these agencies beforehand and explaining what our resource management plan entails, and then asking how are they going to incorporate and work with that and try to coordinate those with us where they can as possible. And that's some of the federal language and federal laws require that they look at that at a local level first. Well, do they really? And that's the question. And so with the assistance of the American Stewards of Liberty, they will be able to help us coordinate that effort. The ask on here, is $18,000. We do have planning funds that we set aside for a look at our general plan, and the resource management plan is embedded in the general plan. And so we do have funds available. And I think for me, when we discovered them, a lot of counties in Utah also utilize their services. Not the majority of the counties, but those here in southern Utah, they definitely use them. And as we try to engage in more of that process at a federal level, trying to step it down, bring it back down out of the Secretary of Interior or the Department of Interior, bring it back down to a local level where it really should be, where those items really should be enacted, and at least looked at on their approach with their contract. Their contract is about it's $1,500 a month, and at any time we can cancel. And so if it's services we really don't see of a value in the future, it's something that we could easily terminate. But I think it stands that we need to have more of an active role in the Forest Service and BLM planning efforts, and like today's public comments where you have citizens that don't feel that they have a voice. Well, this will create an opportunity to have public meetings, have public officials in those meetings. It's advertised with BLM Forest Service so that we can try to get more of an active role in that. We do have Margaret Byfield also online here, who oversees American Standards of Liberty. I believe she's created this. She's here today as well. I don't know, Margaret, if you have anything to add on to that. Hopefully I give you justice of what it is you're trying to do. And you are on mute as well. Just there you go.
There we go. Thank you, Mac. That was a pretty good introduction. I'm pretty pleased. And really, I can take any questions that the commissioners may have.
Hold on just a second, Margaret.
Sure.
Okay, can you speak now?
Go ahead, Margaret.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll give you just kind of a brief overview of coordination, why it's really such an important tool for counties to use, and really does give you a meaningful seat at the table in these processes. And probably the best thing I can do is compare it to the cooperative agency process, which I'm sure you are all already familiar with. And that cooperative agency process is what is happening in the planning process right now, where you are invited to be involved confidentially in closed door meetings with the BLM planning process, where they are sharing things that they're planning to do in the resource area with you, but it's all kept confidential. They ask for your input, but they don't have to listen to or take into account your input. And we find that counties get very frustrated with this because it's a process that they entirely control that doesn't take into account the real needs of the counties. Congress set up 3 processes through the Federal Land Policy and Management Act. The cooperative agency process, and that's actually through the National Environmental Policy Act, through NEPA. But there's 3 processes: the cooperative agency process, the collaborative process, which is when all the stakeholders get together, try to come up with a plan, and everybody has an equal voice, which is not a good place for the counties to really exercise what you need, because while you have planning and taxing authority, your voice is equal to a nonprofit that is simply an advocacy group for a policy position that doesn't have the responsibilities that you have to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people. So in that collaborative process, you have an equal voice with people that do not have the equal responsibility that you have to carry out. So it's really not a good place for the county to really exercise and require its needs to be met. And the cooperative agency process, as I explained earlier, it was originally designed only for agencies. So your federal agencies operate different than your public entities like a board of commissioners. The federal agencies do everything behind closed doors. They all report to their boss. So the cooperative agency was put together originally to study the plan that would be prepared under the Federal Land Management Act. So you have really 2 laws in place. You have the Federal Land Policy and Management Act, which is the substantive act, which directs the agencies on how they are to manage the federal lands. That's the act that they're writing the plan under. Then comes into play the National Environmental Policy Act, which requires the agencies to study the different alternative ways that they could implement that plan. And the only purpose for NEPA is to study the plan and the different potential impacts. So that's why you have your different alternatives. But all that NEPA does is create an analysis for policymakers to consider when they determine which alternative the plan to proceed with. And they can ignore everything in NEPA and they can just pick what they would like. And so the cooperative agency process falls under that NEPA process. So when you're a cooperator, all you are doing is helping them to prepare the analysis. That's it. And in that process, because it was originally designed for agencies, and it wasn't until later that they started inviting counties into this process, it's a closed door process that you have to sign a confidentiality agreement to participate in it. And so everything that's taking place, you can't be open with the public about what is going on. So it really restricts the counties, and in some ways, it can be argued, puts the counties in a position of having to be very careful not to violate the Open Meetings Act, which is why usually only one commissioner or one county staff person attends those meetings. So those are the two processes that most people are familiar with. Coordination is a process that a lot of counties still are not aware of, but it is the most powerful and important process for counties to be involved in. And coordination is directed under the Federal Land Policy and Management Act. And what Congress did is Congress told the federal agencies that they shall coordinate the inventory process, the planning process, and the management activities with local governments. And those three things are very distinct. The inventory process, like road inventory processes, the planning process, which is what they're in now, the development, revision of a plan, and the management activities is the implementation of that plan. So what Congress said basically is you will coordinate continuously with the counties. And part of that responsibility, and FLIPNA has laid out a specific criteria of the things that they must do in order to meet coordination with the counties, including the one that is usually most troubling for the agencies, that it requires that they coordinate with the county plans and to make the federal plans as consistent as practical under the purposes of the law. So what that means is that if you have a county plan in place, Congress has said to the federal agencies, you must first consider those local plans, and you must incorporate those into the federal planning processes unless there is a very good and reasonable reason why those can't be carried out. And so it's not Congress didn't set forth something that says you have to completely adopt the county's plans. That's not what they said at all. What they said is you have to consider them, and you have to meaningfully consider them, and you have to have those conversations with the county commissioners to find out why does the county have a certain policy, and how can we work that into the federal policy. And they have to have a very good reason as to why that won't work in the federal policy. So what it does, it's a very reasonable part of FLIPNA, which is meant to inspire good governance, and meaning that they didn't want the federal agencies to come in and do top-down management. They wanted the agencies to harmonize the federal, state, and local plans so that there's vertical alignment between the planning processes, understanding that each entity from the federal, the state, and the local have different responsibilities. And all those responsibilities need to work together and align for efficient governance. And so, for instance, the federal land, the BLM in this particular instance, has the responsibility to manage the land and the habitat. You, the local government, have the responsibility to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people. That is not the responsibility of the BLM. And Congress recognized that. And Congress recognized that those two things, those two purposes need to be harmonized in the planning process, which is why they put the responsibility on the federal agencies to coordinate that effort with the counties. Now, all that being said, the big question is, why don't the counties ever do this? And there's a couple of very good reasons why they don't do it. Number one, it creates more work and it creates more accountability. The coordination process is public. So you carry out the coordination process just like you're doing this meeting today. You chair the meeting, you publicly notice the meeting, and the public is allowed to come to the meeting and hear the discussion. And for the first time in public, the agencies have to respond to your questions. And so that creates a level of accountability that they're not particularly comfortable with, but is so essential to good governance. And it's one of the most important things that takes place in the coordination process, is that nothing's behind closed doors anymore. Now it's all open and public, and these good, healthy discussions about what the county needs and how those should be incorporated into the federal planning processes are discussed openly, professionally, and with the intent to get to a good resolution.
Okay. A lot of what you said resonates with me, as I've been a commissioner for a while. I think maybe the other two, some of the stuff resonated with them as well. So what you want us to take an action on this today, Mac?
Yes, it's approval of the contract.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the contract with the American Stewards of Liberty?
Commissioner, I'd like to make that motion to approve the contract.
Have a motion by Jamie,
A second?
second by Sylvia. Any further discussion? You've done such a good job, Margaret.
Just a comment, I just think that this is important. It allows the county to finally be front and center with all the discussions that have been happening that we haven't been a part of. And so I think this is an important step. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, very good. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So we'll execute that contract.
Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
You too.
Next is a approval of a letter. Nick, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Good morning. Still morning, isn't it? Well, BLM has a new rule proposed, and I believe this is what Brent Johansson was referring to earlier. The new rule is entitled Conservation and Landscape Health, and it appears to be BLM's effort to meet the Biden administration's goal of protecting 30% of the lands in the United States by the year 2030. In other words, the 30 by 30 plan that's been proposed. Now, this new rule would recognize conservation as itself as a use, as one of the multiple uses that are defined by FLPMA. And FLPMA defines the multiple uses as range, recreation, wildlife, timber, minerals, watershed, etc., those kind of things. So conservation would be given equal footing with these other legislatively defined uses under FLPMA. And this new rule would create a new mechanism called a conservation lease for the purpose of authorizing conservation through protecting, managing, or restoring natural or cultural environments and ecological communities. Now, these leases would be for a maximum of 10 years, but they could be renewed if needed. And they would be issued to qualified individuals, businesses, non-governmental organizations, or tribal governments. Now, state and county governments were not included in this proposed rule. Now, as I understand it, these conservation leases could be applied to what is termed intact landscapes, and that's a new term used in this proposed rule. And these intact landscapes would be something that the BLM would have to identify in its land use planning. and such landscapes of indeterminate size would be protected from activities that would supposedly disrupt, impair, or degrade their functionality. And supposedly, existing uses like mineral leases and grazing leases would not be affected if they are consistent with conservation use. Now, while this proposed rule appears to be made with good intent for improving the health and resilience of ecosystems, there is a potential to interpret conservation as preservation and thereby change BLM's mandate from multiple use and sustained yield to change BLM's mandate from multiple use to preservation or no use, similar to the management that the Park Service is mandated to use. Now, of course, this could result in significant changes to land management in San Juan County, where BLM administers 41% of the acreage in the county. The conservation, at least the way I've understood it, has historically been defined to be the wise use of resources under scientific principles to ensure ecosystem health and sustained yield. Now, the new rule on conservation is unnecessary, as conservation in the historical context has been and continues to be applied in BLM management. It is not a separate entity, but is an integral part of all of BLM management. Now, the proposed rule would also prioritize the designation and protecting of areas of critical environmental concern. ACECs is the acronym. Now, these are areas where special management is needed to either protect important natural, cultural, or scenic resources, or to protect life and safety from natural hazards. Now, San Juan County already has 8 ACECs totaling over 78,000 acres. In other words, over 3 townships in size. And these were established in the 2008 RMP, Resource Management Plan, or previously. Now, the comment letter you have before you for your consideration makes these points as well as others, including the disagreement with BLM's assertion that the proposed rule is exempt from analysis under NEPA. We think this would be such a far-ranging and affecting rule that this may require an EIS for analysis. Now, the proposed rule is open for public comment through June the 30th. And I suppose you've had some time to look at this letter, and I would recommend that you sign it.
Okay, very good, Nick. I know the State Public Lands Office is very concerned about this whole concept. UAC's against this rule. I think there's been a loud outcry in the West against this rule. I'm against this rule, 100%. I'm against 30 by 30, 100%. So is there a motion to approve signing of the letter?
I'll make that motion, Commissioner.
Thank you, Jamie.
No, I approve.
I have a motion by Jamie, a second by Sylvia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So if you have a copy or Mac has a copy, we'll sign it.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Consideration, let's see. Consideration and approval of a local consent of single event Lyman.
Let's see, hold on. We skipped one.
We skipped one?
Yep.
Number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, this is consideration and approval of a letter to the BLM requesting continuation of consulting party status under the Section 106 Cultural Resources Review. And this would be for the revised March and December 2018 oil and gas lease sales. Now, BLM is conducting a new Natural Historic Preservation Act review process for, I think it's 29 leases. I may have written 32. 29 leases previously issued from the March and December 2018 oil and gas lease sale. And this is all in the Monticello BLM field office. And these leases have already been issued. However, due to subsequent litigation, this resulted in a settlement agreement, so that BLM would have to go back and do some additional analysis of these leases. Now, these leases, I don't know if you've looked at your map, they're primarily in the East Canyon area, northeast of Monticello, as well as in the area southeast of Blanding all the way to the state line. I thought I had the acreage figure, but I guess I don't have it on this. Now, the consulting party status allows a county to have input in how cultural resources would be handled with any impacts that may result from leasing. So the BLM has asked whether the county wishes to continue as a consulting party, and I recommend that since we were previously a consulting party, that we just continue that process for these two lease sales. So that's what the letter before you basically states.
Okay, I think we need to be involved in this whole process. Do we have a motion to approve signing this letter?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie, second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. We'll sign that one too, Nick.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Next, we have the proposed request to Lyman on beer sales.
Yes, I was approached by the Underdog Animal Rescue and Rehab facility in Moab. They have requested a 1-day permit to have a fundraising activity at Ken's Lake, just south of the community of Moab. And there they'll have races, paddleboard or some sort of races and fun during the day. And they would like to have retail beer sales in a cordoned off tented area.
That's where the fun will be, is in the cordon off tent area.
Fun in the day, fun in the night.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
Second.
second by Sylvia. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next is item 8, consideration and approval of purchase of walk and roll. Is that walk and roll or rock and roll? Todd, you're muted. Todd, can you hear us? Unmute yourself, Todd.
He must be out in the hills. On their staff report, it mentions here road department would like to purchase the 2 walk and roll compactors for 2 lease motor graders that do not currently have a compactor on them. Compactor attaches to the motor grader and is helpful in compacting material on the road as it is graded. We do a really quick effort when the rains come. We try to get those blades out there as quick as possible. These compactors will also help kind of compact that soil as much as we can while we have moisture in it to help minimize how much we have to maintain them.
And I'm sure this is in his budget.
It is in his budget.
Do we have a motion?
A motion for approval.
Motion by Sylvia,
Second.
second by Jamie. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. So that item is approved. Number 9, consideration approval of a letter of support. Elaine, I think you might as well come up and sit down. You have a few items.
Yes, Thank you for this time. The first one is consideration and approval of a letter of support for San Juan County's participation in the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op grant for $275,000 that we would match. This is a continuing program annually, and if we did not get this grant, we'd be in deep trouble. So the grant from the Utah Office of Tourism really helps us to promote all of our businesses in San Juan County. So we're preparing all the documentation for that, and we will continue to use our same sustainability message of love Mother Nature. We're going to tweak it a little bit. We're improving our website with a lot of additional content that this funding will enable us to do that. We're focusing on trails. Which I thank you for signing the letter that you signed regarding the situation with the BLM. I mean, if we would lose these trails, it would devastate outfitters. It would devastate the community. We're expanding on our trail content. We had a call with the BLM last week about the information. I just think I applaud you for signing that letter of support. So this grant really helps San Juan County. So of course, we don't know what will be awarded. I have to go up and present it, but hopefully they'll award us. The maximum is $250, but we'll probably ask for an additional $25,000 to help support the international travel show next year. So it's like $275, but we'll see what we get.
Okay. We don't want to get in trouble with the state tourism office, so I think we better pass this.
I'll make a motion
They
to
come
support
after you.
it.
Okay, a motion by Sylvia,
Second.
second by Jamie. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next.
The next request is for the approval of the contract with Visa Destinations. And this report, we signed up for this report for the last few years. The state is paying 50% of the cost of it, so they're going to pony up $4,000. But it really gives us a lot of information on how much people who use their Visa cards spend in San Juan County. So for instance, in 2022, our visitation was up for almost 15% with everybody that used a Visa. We had 715,000 versus 621,000. We can track points of interest. We know that Salt Lake City's number one, Phoenix, Denver, Grand Junction, Dallas, Fort Worth, Los Angeles. We can see by city where our visitors are coming from and actually where they're going. So it really helps us to target areas where we might see growth. If we see growth in a particular, say, country, as people are using their Visa card, we can target that particular country for marketing. So this information is really important, and it's also used in supporting the grants that we write, especially through the Utah Office of Tourism grant that we're applying for. Plus, we provide it to the tax advisory board so they can see what our marketing is doing, and we've put stats out there for the businesses to use. So I think it's really important that we continue this contract, and that funding would come out of the co-op funding out of the Utah Office of Tourism.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve signing the contract with Visa USA?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion?
Just a comment.
Uh-huh.
At some point, would love to see if there would be any data for area down south of us, such as Bluff, down at the National Park in Monument Valley, as well as traffic going towards the Four Corners. I think that
We
would
we
be,
can look at all that and bring up what we want. We don't get visitation from the tribal park. They won't give us that info, so we don't know how many people go in there. But we do know. I have a lot of information. When you have time, we can look at the transient room tax that we collect out of particular businesses within that whole area. We can look at traffic where the spending is, if it's and what percent are going to. We know that Monument Valleys are number one when people are going to the website. Four Corners. So we block off a day and you come down and I'll go over
that'd be
with
great.
you.
I think the
Yeah.
chapters would find that very valuable.
Yeah,
so.
I think the more information, and that's what we're trying to do, is push out to everyone, the more they can use it for their benefit. So,
Awesome.
what areas they want to target, and we are on the website. We've separated our website. It used to be combined with Visitor Services, Utah's Canyon Country, and Economic Development were all on one. And when I came, my goal was to separate it. So now we've got separate Visitor Services website and Facebook, social media, all that's separate. And Economic Development is separate because we're trying to grow, both sectors for our department. So we're doing. I'm anxious to talk to you, and I could talk all day long, but we're featuring businesses, on our website. And Deborah McKee, who's our new economic development specialist, has a lot of great ideas, and we want to help. We're going to beef up the November Native American Heritage Month. Wait till you see that. So we have a lot going on. I'd be happy to come down to your neck of the woods and spend the day.
Very good.
So
I have a question.
sure.
The information that regarding how much dollars I spent on taxes outside the county, is that information coming through this program or a different
The
program?
94 million that we're losing sales
Yeah.
tax.
Zionist Bank.
That was from Zions Bank, produced
Okay.
that report, but the Southeast Utah Association of Local Governments actually spearheaded that effort for us to provide. We had to agree, the commission had to agree to allow that report to be done. So we did it. I think we'd probably do it, every 3 years or something. You wouldn't need to do it every year.
No,
I
it's
think it'd be a
every 3 years
waste.
that comes
Yeah.
through.
So maybe next year we'll take a look
Especially
at
as
it.
we're going through our regional plan on an economic development level through southeastern Utah. That's one
Yeah.
of the things that we'll incorporate as
Right.
well as kind of an update to
Mhm.
that.
So we can use that, and that information is going to be good for a few more years. So hopefully we can decrease the amount that's leaving the county. So
Okay, all those in favor of approving this annual participation agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, you have the next one too, Elaine.
yep. This is for approval of a state contract for the Division of Outdoor Recreation in San Juan County for the Spanish Hills Trail that we're creating in Spanish Valley, which is the old Mud Springs area. And we are really, we're working with Grand County Active Trails and Transportation, the BLM. We really have a coordinated effort, SITLA, to make this trail system happen. So they have awarded us the $200,000. We have to come up with $40,000 over the next 2 years. But once that trail goes in, it's really, this is the first phase. So it's about 10 miles. So we've got 2 other phases, and I'll have to apply for the rest of the funding over the next couple of years. But I know that Grand County's very excited about the trail, as well as the trail mix and Active Trails and Transportation. And I think for San Juan County, this is going to open up a whole new window for us as far as getting NICA, possible races, high school mountain biking races, but more than that, getting our high school students to really join a high school mountain biking team. I've already reached out to a couple of developers for support, that they would support these teams. So it's a chance for us to really. We have no high school mountain biking team here in San Juan County, and there are, I think, 70 plus teams around the state. So it's a real chance for us to do that. Plus, bring in revenue into the county by people staying, in hotels and overnight rentals in the area. So it's really going to be, I think, great for us to, and I think it'll help the whole valley, Grand and San Juan. So we would have to budget 40,000. Like they're trying to move fast, the Active Trails and Transportation, to get this started, because we have to shut down in the winter for the deer. I think it's deer out
hunt.
there, something. So we have to work fast, but I'm going to try to work the 40,000. We have 2 years, but I'd like to work it in all next year if I can, to pay our share. So, but it's really signing the contract and agreeing to the award, and then agreeing to all of the details within the contract.
Do we have a motion to sign the state contract on this item?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I second.
second by Sylvia. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. So you just asking for Commissioner Adams' signature and no money? You're asking for the money, or you're going to figure out?
No,
She's got the money.
She got the money.
Yeah,
So we just need
the
his
money's going to
signature.
come out of the budget. I'll be back to ask
I
for
know.
the money. Let's put it that way.
I was
Yep.
worried about the purse. No,
Okay.
this is a good time to be doing this. The governor set aside 80 million for trails development through the state of Utah, and 40 million per year going on. So it's a good time to build trails.
It is, and I think the fact that we've got Grand County excited about it, the BLM, SITLA, everybody's on board, and they're excited about this opportunity. And when you look at the map, I just received the map from Tyson Swayze, who's creating the trail. I mean, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and the goal of the governor is eventually have all connected, all those trails connected through the state.
Well, we should, because we have the Western Express bike
Yeah.
way that comes on 491. It comes right here to the intersection, goes down 191 and then goes out 95, and it connects all the way to San Francisco. So we have to this is our chance to start with connections
It's a good time
here
to
in
sell our projects.
Exactly. Mhm.
Okay, very good. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
You batted 1,000 today.
Thanks. I appreciate all your support.
Very good. Grant, I think you have the next 5 items. First item is tobacco.
Yes, it's that time of year, right, as we're getting ready for the federal fiscal year to switch over. So just preparing to few of these contracts to be in place, continue a lot of our existing work. So this, for starters here, the tobacco contract. So overall purpose here is to prevent the use of commercial tobacco and connect people who may need some help with cessation or quitting tobacco use. So you can see this is a little bit complex. There's some different parts to it, but overall this is reimbursable funding, no match required. There's an increase in the funding so that the new total is $673,200 approximately. And so this mixture of checking with the vendors, making sure that they're compliant, not selling to minors. That's something we partner with the Sheriff's Office as well as with our Youth Coalition to make sure we have those youth involved. And it's a good learning experience for them too, to learn about public health and prevention. So, and then these other efforts that involve partnering with schools and also preventing e-cigarettes use as well, which is a little unique in our county since we actually don't have vendors selling e-cigarettes, but trying to prevent people from going shopping for it, bringing it back, especially not sharing it with the youth. So that's my overview. Any questions?
Does that involve at all vaping?
Oh, that's the e-cigarette part, sometimes
Okay.
called vaping, right?
Okay.
Right.
Right.
A little bit complex because we're starting to get into the non-tobacco part.
Mhm.
So, vape that involves a lot of nicotine, so it's addictive. Is there a direct physical health issue? It's actually an ongoing kind of debate with our other health departments and the state health departments. Like, how do we adapt now as the technology is changing?
Okay.
It's actually technological, right? This
Yeah.
how vaping works. So, good question. Thanks.
We have a motion to approve this tobacco contract.
Motion.
Second?
Motion by Jamie, a second by Sylvia. Any further discussion?
Just a real quick question, Commissioner. Grant, in the endeavor for tobacco prevention, does public health travel out down south into the reservation to the convenience stores as well to check on?
I apologize. I don't have the complete list in my head right now. Is a little bit of distinction for some of the vendors. I'd have to check with Rebecca Benali, our health promotion director, to clarify that. Happy to get back to you on that. I apologize for
Okay.
not having that in my head right
I
now.
think that would be valuable information because I know those questions are sometimes posed at the local
chapter.
elected leader, the chapters.
Exactly.
And we want to be able to reassure them, yes, public health is coming into our communities and also bringing out some good programs to help the teens.
That is very clear from Rebecca's perspective. I just apologize. I'll have to get that information to clarify. And I can add, I do use the word commercial tobacco here because we do, part of our process in education, et cetera, is to distinguish between commercial tobacco use and traditional tobacco use, which is actually a healthier use of it. So, quick clarification there. Thanks for asking.
Any others? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next is your crisis response workforce.
Thanks. This is a unique one because it was meant to be flexible funding to help us address the pandemic as well as have capacity to address any future similar emergencies like it. The overall intent here is to maintain capacity or build capacity for our local public health needs. I list a few of the allowable activities, and this is an extension of an existing contract. No funding added or taken away, and no county amount required. But you can see kind of the mix of things that we have slated here or that are open for consideration. Definite plans to update our equipment around technology needs. You can see computers, things like that are part of the current plan. Make sure we can stay connected, have that basic technological infrastructure. Another option available is things like incentives, professional development, bonuses that could help with either recruitment or retention of our staff. This is a big issue right now. As you may know, that there is a nursing shortage, and we see increasing wages. We see even stipends. For example, there's a listing here from our school district for a similar position to ours, $6 an hour more listed compared to what we have, plus a $10,000 a year yearly stipend. So it is something, along with other positions like front desk, that they're increasing a lot. So it's a challenging situation where our staff, I hear about these things from my staff because they're open with me, like, well, look at this, it's available. And so this is at least around stipends or bonuses, especially where we're trying to recruit a new public health nurse like we've talked about with the cancer screening program. This funding is available for the next year for consideration to help with these types of issues, be it recruitment or retention. You can see it can help with supplementing wages and supporting with HR staff to expedite more rapid hiring processes, and then training as well. So this mixture of our capacity support, and then it does dovetail with that public health infrastructure grant that is a 5-year grant that's already been approved.
Do we have a motion to approve the supplemental grant contract?
We'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Sylvia,
I'll second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion?
Got 1 year grant.
Yeah.
From today to get that all spent.
Right, right.
That's part of the hard part. What is, I mean, when you look at sustainability, Grant, I mean, you'd mentioned that if we're $6 off of our nurse's salary compared to the school district, and oftentimes it's hard to compete with school district because of the nursing efforts that they hold, and they're actively engaged in are a lot different than the public health standpoint.
Different?
What, I mean, how do you sustain that? You go through and you bring on new nurses at a high dollar amount. What's your sustainability if they're only paying for a year?
One example is just our other contracts. They're going through the same issues, and the contracts are meant to be fulfilled by nurses. We have requirements in our contracts that say it needs to be an RN, and they require us to submit the certification to show that that's the case. One is the home visiting program I mentioned earlier this morning.
Yeah,
Brittany said that they've actually at the state level they've negotiated a wage increase or retention incentive. So again, is it recruitment or retention or both, right?
Yeah.
And so that's available, and so it's something that we can potentially work together on to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Where the state's trying to be mindful of it, and we have this 1 year, but then, like I said, that infrastructure grant is also potentially available. We'll have to double check the details of something like a stipend or a wage increase, but yeah, it's that combination of those things.
It seems like there for a couple of years ago we played this with our police force and the sheriffs, where everyone kept on giving increases, and so during the market study we felt that we did a pretty good effort to catch nurses up to where we were. We don't really have a lot of turnover in that. I mean, we've got one retiring out. One that
left
one that went
year.
to UNHS at a higher position with years of service.
It was just one of our partners.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I've asked Grant is, well, is there the possibility we have USU nursing program right there? Why aren't we a feeder to them and capturing those
or vice versa? Yeah.
Those class. I don't know how many they graduate a year, but you say 20. If there's 20 in this region graduating, why aren't they applying for public health?
Oh, and I did eventually send you a note. So it was later yesterday about that idea, and we are in many ways. There are two challenges there. One, their graduates, of course, go to the highest bidder, right? They're like, who can they get the best job, and so they'll go to a better job. The other part to it is currently we don't train our RNs in those programs much about public health nursing. The focus is more on clinical nursing, relatively speaking, and that's just because it's more common. Right? And we're looking at the community as our patient, things like that, right? And so that's something long-term through this infrastructure grant. I want to work with the system to say, how do we create pathways, like you're saying, a feeder process from our programs to public health, or if someone's in a clinical setting, and this is what I taught at University of Utah when I was teaching in the nursing program there, hey, if you're a nurse, any clinician, still need you to have a public health mindset too. Don't just, it's important to learn about the details and the microbes, but also what's impacting the patient in a community sense. So I think that's a broad, a great goal anyways, to work with our nursing program. Could you use this for
the WIC nurse? I mean, you have a WIC director as the nurse. Could you also use this effort as a WIC nurse?
This can, because we're such a small health department. All of our nurses, are wearing multiple hats. Even the one's focused on WIC, one's focused on home visiting. But hey, when there's an outbreak, it's all hands on deck, and that's why when it says derived from COVID-19, hey, that's what we're trying to make sure we're ready for.
Okay.
Any disease that's similar to COVID or COVID
Not necessarily
itself.
WIC.
Yeah, for this grant in and of itself. Is that your question?
Yeah, that is exactly.
Yeah, cool.
I was just adding the comment about working with USU about an internship.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have a rotation where instead of being a clinical part of the program, it's a rotation where they come to an organization like yours, for
Yeah.
Even
So
for a
they
short,
do
even
that.
for a short period of time,
Right.
they could give them an idea of what's involved.
Yeah, I was just brainstorming with Brittany Carlson about this yesterday. And right now they're doing a rotation with us, but it's like one day
Oh,
with ours. And it's so different from all
Yeah.
the other experiences. They're like, what? Right?
yeah,
And so what we were brainstorming about, again, this is more of a long-term plan, right? It doesn't necessarily help with recruitment right now, but long-term to work with them, say, hey, can we work with your students on a community health nursing project or something? And that takes a little time
yeah,
over time. So a little bit here, right? And that they can see, because our impact is not give someone some medicine and they're better necessarily, right? It's prevention, it's working
Yeah.
on health promotion.
yeah.
Those things take a little bit of time, but
Yeah.
it's also exciting in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, look, we worked with the community and implemented this thing, and it's
So how is it that we, and I hear what you're saying, how is
Yeah.
it that we hire a nurse out of the clinical field that doesn't have that type of experience?
Mhm.
All of a sudden they get that experience? I mean, they don't have that knowledge.
It's a little bit of a challenge, and that's where we're in the job description. We really put that they have this community mindset, that they have evidence that they can empathize across so many different people and think about the complex issues. The technical term that we use nowadays is social determinants of health,
Uh-huh.
and that's things like actually Sean Begay with UNHS. We were just talking about this. Things like firewood being available to heat your home, and how down the road, if you don't have that, it impacts your health. Or if you're heating your home with firewood and there's not a good exhaust set
Yeah.
up, can affect your lungs, right? Anyways, just sharing that as an
Yeah, no,
example. And
that's-
so
yeah.
having our nurses have that mindset, thinking outside of just like, oh, drawing blood, doing a test, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do that, but then also thinking about what else is going on, right?
And that's an effort that you can train on as well, right?
With that experience, right? It takes a little, like in a nursing program, that's where I'd want a longitudinal project over time to say, hey, how can we work with the community to identify a need and then develop a little project together? Maybe it's some data collection, right? Like we talked about earlier, to clarify like, oh, the state says this is an issue in San Juan County. Let's collect some of our own data to verify that. So that's where I get to the public health geek gets excited in me, and that's why I like to inspire other people to do too. It's like, look at what we're doing, right? We're partnering with the community, collecting data. So, and then acting on it, right? Not just data for the sake of data. So, so there's that mixture of long-term efforts that we're going to lay the groundwork for. But in the meantime, is there some short-term efforts around a bonus or something that can help kind of say, well, this other thing at the school district or wherever, they're doing that. Can we have some version of that to help with retention? Just because there's naturally people our staff are seeing that.
Yeah.
I know.
Same with my
It's
own
challenging, I know. It's just this funding is available. Recognize it's very specific to public health, and that can be challenging, I know, within where we have so many different departments, and this is not available across departments, but it is here.
Okay, I think we're still working on a motion and a second on this item on number 13.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I think we have a motion and
Yeah,
a second,
Oh.
is what I'm saying.
Just need to
Oh,
vote.
we
So we're ready to vote.
Okay,
All in favor of approval of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, number 14, Grant.
Thanks for your help working through that one. A little more complex. The rest should be a little more straightforward. This is a continuation of our violence and injury prevention program. You can see some categories here: maternal child health, opioid overdose prevention, as well as working with people with various disabilities to improve their health. So this is continuing these efforts, increasing by 9,000. So it has that new contract amount of 51,295. Similar to our other grants, this is reimbursed after we take action in implementing these activities. No county match required, and so, yeah, this is just a continuation of that contract.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this
Violence and injury prevention.
violence injury prevention program?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Number 15, Grant.
Shifting to 2 infectious disease grants here, continuation of or an amendment of the HIV prevention grant. This is actually what I had talked about a few months ago. They had promised an increase so that we could have about $1,000 across this calendar year. So new total funding is $1,000 up through December 31st. This helps with case investigation, HIV counseling, so prevention of spread if there is a case, but also other forms of prevention for HIV.
Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Sylvia,
Second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Number 15, grant HIV prevention.
Let's see. Oh, is this TB?
It is.
Oh,
There we go.
sorry.
Just double checking.
TB.
Great. Tuberculosis prevention and control here. Amendment 6, similar. Well, this is a little unique, I should say, actually. The intent here was that if we did end up hosting any populations displaced from Ukraine, this would help with some TB evaluation, treatment. To my understanding, we have not had any, but this is available. It's also, they said this is flexible, though. If we do not end up hosting any people from Ukraine, that it's still available for general TB prevention and control. So this is similar to other funding in terms of being reimbursed after activities. So this is an increase of 1,000 through September. It's kind of an interesting timeline there. And that should cover it. Any questions, though? This is a little unique.
Okay, do
Like
we
I
have
said,
a
I'm not
motion
aware
to
of any
approve?
Ukrainians coming.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Sylvia, second by Jamie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you all.
Okay, Sam, you have a couple of items next.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, guys.
Good afternoon. So I just have 2 items. They are both for approval of contracts for proposals that were approved in your last meeting. The first is consideration and approval of the contract to TM Premier Services for landscape maintenance services at multiple locations throughout the county. This is the intent here is to avoid the cost of replacing some of our aging equipment, as well as to free up our county staff, maintenance staff, to be able to address other needs that we have in the county that we just have a difficult time getting to.
Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Sylvia,
Second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next.
Next is the consideration and approval of the contract with the Kilgore Companies, DBA LeGrand Johnson, for asphalt repair and replacement projects at multiple locations in the county. This is for asphalt services, replacement repair services for Monticello Library, our administration building here, and Blanding Library. And this will include either repair or replacement depending upon the location, as well as sealing and paint striping.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
Second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mac, number 19.
All right, number 19, you've got consideration and approval of the appointment of Robert Turk to the Blanding Cemetery District. Historically, all I can find is that we've really only had 3 members on this. So during Memorial Day celebrations, Robert Turk had kind of reached out to Commissioner Stubbs. You know, I had some concerns regarding the Blanding Cemetery and wanted to assist in kind of the guidance and overall help. You know, it's always good. We've always struggled to find participation on a lot of these boards, and it seems like it's the the routine people that are always on these boards, and so
And the cemetery is growing. It's getting bigger and
is,
bigger,
yep.
and it's still probably the same number.
People dying to get in there.
I know.
People dying to get in.
They just moved in, never checked out. So,
Yeah, never check out. It's just like,
anyway, I had the same concern. He happened to just come by my house. And as I was thinking, on Sunday when I went and visited the cemetery, either the wind or whatever had basically gone to those little flags that they place, and some were really in poor shape. And so I was just there contemplating, I gotta go to the store and buy some little flags, take my grandson and help me exchange those flags. When he came in, he just was coming back from the service that they have with the same concern. He said, I wanna help with that, that's something I can do, and volunteer his service. And anyway, so that's where it originated. And but we had good people working at the cemetery. That cemetery is well kept, and it's a beautiful place to move in someday.
It is real beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
So
is the one in Monticello, and so is the one in Bluff.
yeah, I need to visit those two. I haven't.
Yeah, they're nice.
Maybe I can.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Sylvia,
Second.
second by Jamie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Number 20, Mac.
okay, this one is the consideration and approval of the 2023 BLM dispatch contract as we hosted the dispatch services here for local entities, Blanding, BLM, Forest Service. We have contracts with them that are more or less a pass through, and so they'll pay us. We will pay the dispatch services and 911 service. This is an annual contract that we go through with the
Do you have a
BLM.
motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Number 21.
Okay, this last one here is consideration, well, on the business action items, consideration and approval of the Arizona-Utah Local Economic Coalition's letter to President Joseph Biden requesting that the
This is
administration
Celeste.
does not designate another national monument in our region of the Southwest. Let me see if I've got a map on here. This is kind of concerning as there's rumors or speculation of another presidential declared monument here in southern Utah, as well as northern Arizona, that would kind of take place in both our regions, which has prompted a bunch of concern by all of the counties here. And part of it is just the concern of the overall process of how this is done, where it's not language that is coming from the local entities. This is all coming from up on top somewhere, and so.
But this is Kane, Mojave, Garfield, and San Juan counties
Correct.
that are joining together.
And you'll have to
And this
refer to it in
And
your
also
package.
Fredonia, Arizona, and Washington.
Yes, and so they are expanding this out to try to get as much where you do have Mojave County, Arizona, Fredonia, Arizona, as well, which is just outside of Kanab in Coconino County.
Celeste.
Just kind of continues to just stop, stop what they're doing.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve signing the letter?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jamie, motion by Sylvia. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, item 22 is illustrious Elaine again.
I need you to make a motion to enter into the as executive directors for the Community Reinvestment Agency, of which Commissioner Adams will then be the director of the Community Reinvestment Agency.
Do we have a motion to enter into the Board of Directors meeting of the Community Reinvestment Agency?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
Sylvia seconds. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, now Elaine.
So is this an open meeting?
So this is another hat that you wear, kind of like Board of Equalization, and yes.
Okay, I'll change my hat.
Yep, so you just changed hats on our agenda, and in our minutes you are now the CRA.
So this has been a long time coming. Poor Mac and,
Yeah.
and me, I'm learning through all this, but it's a good thing, and it's too bad that some of our partners didn't understand how much of a plus this could be to their entities. But this was, I believe, started back in 2019 or 18. It's been a while
It's
back.
probably 17,
17,
18.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
and
it's been going along for
yeah, and this was before Bluff Dwellings was actually built.
Okay, so this is just a picture here.
So this was
The
sort of
Original, yeah.
yes, the original. They
Okay, because
presented.
I thought maybe
This
they're
is-
building something else.
No, this is original concept
Mhm.
before construction.
And it's
Right.
amazing what it looks
It is
like.
amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. And had these other entities realized, they would have benefited financially, but whatever. So here we are, and with the county is the only entity that is in full agreement to support this. The school district said no. The Water Conservancy declined. The health service declined. So, what it will do is the overall project will end in 2042. And it looks, no, before that, excuse me. It looks like what we'll be paying out will be the $450,000 to Bluff Dwellings over the course of those years. And where are we here? So we've got it mapped out from 2000, when the construction started in 19, all the way through 2040.
2042. Yeah.
Yeah, 2042. So I think it's money really well spent, because look what it's done for the county as far as transient room tax, what it's done for sales tax, and for Bluff, the community itself. So we have to approve this entire
Area
till
where the
2042.
Yeah, so the plan was approved back in 2019, creating the project area
Mhm.
for Bluff Dwellings, and in that, the county agreed and told that we would go out and seek participation with these other taxing entities within San Juan County. The developer invested $450,000. That's what he was wanting reimbursed.
Mhm.
And that was the
Was
UDOT
that-
turn lane,
Right.
the Bluff Waterworks connection, electrical utilities, and other utility costs. That's typical when you do a CRA and RDA. Is you're participating in the infrastructure, and what you do is you take that first year of assessed value, and that first year of assessed value was literally $93,000 for the property. That was the base year value that it was assessed at. And then you have the development come along, and then these taxing entities commit a portion of that increase to go back to paying for that infrastructure that they agreed to. And so that first year, kind of out of the gate, you went from 93,000 to 209,000, and that continues to increase as he continued in year two. You can see he went from 93,000 to 1.7 million in just assessed value, and each entity is rewarded with
Right.
that development. And it's unfortunate that they didn't want to
Yeah.
participate, because it kind of gives an incentive back to developers for developing in these areas. As we went through, and there was initially, it looked like there were agreements of these other taxing entities to participate, but we didn't have anything fully signed.
Right.
And nor could we find it in their minutes that it was ever approved. And so Elaine and I went to the taxing entities and did another ask and told them, well, we need you to either tell us whether you're in or out. Unfortunately, all of the taxing entities told us that they were out. They didn't want to participate with this development. That development would naturally happen without that
So is that
participation.
better for us, kind of thing?
Well, it's harder because I felt
kind
that
of-
we made a commitment early on
Yeah.
to bluff dwellings.
And it's all on the
And
county now.
We entered
Yeah.
we entered into the project area. We told them we would invest, and then here we are alone at the end of the day, which is fine. We benefit and will continue to benefit from his development.
It's an amazing thing.
I mean,
It's
jobs,
beautiful. Yes.
sales tax, TRT tax. I mean, all the way around.
Yep.
And it's something really nice that
Yes.
people
Well,
can stay.
yes.
Yep. And
It's
so,
People that
two.
can afford-
You know, we only have two premier resorts in our county, which is Bluff Dwellings and Desert Rose, and he, you know, he does really well. And considering he has the outfitting business to complement, you know, so it's a win-win all the way
yes,
around.
absolutely.
So I don't know, and not having a ton of experience in this, if the next time this would happen, that we have to explain to these other entities maybe in a different way, and we weren't here
bit
when
more
that happened.
education.
I wasn't
Yeah,
here. I
I
don't
wasn't
know
here
that. I don't
either.
think you
Well,
were
the
here.
thing is that
you know.
eventually the benefit will trickle down too. Because
Exactly.
the more times we collect benefit, the
That's
more
right.
benefit.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
almost a
So-
team kind of thing because the more they participate, the faster we can recoup our investment.
Well, and I think, as Max said, it encourages other developers
Oh,
to come
yeah.
back and say, hey, look, those entities are willing to support development. So we just need to come up with a better story to explain
The
to
other
them.
entities never did understand the concept.
Oh,
agree.
I know the school districts
They
have
just thought
always
they
been.
they were taking money out of their
Yes.
Got
funds
it.
and giving it to Bluff
Yeah,
Dwellings.
yeah.
All of them thought that. And
Oh, boy.
So they don't understand. CRA
Yeah,
at
so
all.
we have to think about how we can explain it better to them to encourage them to sign on.
Video or something that people can.
I don't know. I know that school districts generally don't like to do that, but I think there's such an advantage to having, especially in
Grows
our
the tax
type of,
base.
yeah,
Grows
our
the
type
tax
of
base.
community.
Especially
So,
if the development brings in more business opportunities,
Right.
there's more families
Yeah.
working.
yeah,
Kind of helps the kids, and so you definitely have that. And it's kind of, for me, when you look at the film industry, and we were able to get the film, Commissioner Adams, was able to get the state of Utah to participate more in the film industry. Had he not done that, the Kevin Costner's Horizon Films would not be here in
Right.
the state of Utah. And even though we had to give back a little bit more of the tax, in turn, we make millions and millions of dollars just off of that film. And so it's the same thing here. As sometimes for a little
No,
amount of money,
I-
$450,000.
yeah.
I don't question the amount or anything. I just
And
just
that's how we can encourage
like-
developers to come in and
Yeah.
decide they want to be in San Juan County,
And the thing is, I go to those meetings with other commissioners. They talk about thousands of people moving into their county. And you go, every county I go, I start thinking how much money they have in taxes. And with us, we are losing population.
Yep.
And I think that we need to have things that, for everybody, for tourists, for people that want to stay, start thinking convenience that people will want to live here. Because I know in that area, for instance, if any other organization need to hire somebody, if it's a husband getting the job, they know the move will be hiring wives, because if you're used to the shopping and the convenience. Now we have Amazon. It's a different, But and so we need things for the children. Like I was talking to somebody who used to live in Monticello. They moved because they felt like there wasn't that much for children, and so the more we cooperate with people that are willing to build and
Yeah.
keep making a community place that people want to stay once they come here. And
Well, and I think developers see that and they say, oh, they really do support us. They believe in us and we're going to invest in that community. But,
and you know, the plaza, this developer, he's local,
mhm.
and you know, he has more ideas to
Yeah.
the I think amazing ideas, and hope he can keep growing and
Well, fingers crossed that he can develop a
He needs to
property
do more of these.
here in Monticello. Well, I mean, I'm hoping that that's the case.
be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to come out of CRA to make a decision on this?
No,
Or
you
do
have to
we make it in
stay.
CRA?
You have to stay and
in
make the
CRA.
Okay,
decision.
we have a motion to approve the participation in the tax increment participation in block dwellings.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Sylvia,
I'll second.
second by Jamie.
Look at
Further
Jamie's video.
discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Do we have a motion to come out of our Community Reinvestment Agency board meeting?
A motion to come out of
Yeah.
the meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sylvia, second by Jamie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Now, do we have a motion to go into executive session, or do we not want to do reports?
It's up to you.
Thank you very much for your
Oh, you're
support.
welcome. Thank you for all you do.
Do you want to give reports before we go into executive session?
I just have 2 items I want
Okay,
to share.
go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. First item I just wanted to share on is just maybe at some point we can revisit review of the EMS emergency system infrastructure that we have in place for the county. I'm sure it's coming, but recent experience, just wanted to share an experience. I think I was traveling back from Taylorsville for the leadership training, and there was an accident. A semi hit some cars, multiple vehicles near Hole in the Rock. I happened to go through there. Maybe the accident happened 5 minutes before, and I was wondering if anyone called. So I was making attempts to call too. No cell service whatsoever. And finally, till I got to maybe where the llamas are, just down the road here, finally got some service. And so I was like, man, we really need to take a good look at how we can improve that cell service. But that's a need, a realistic need that I really thought would be important at some point to revisit, and maybe hopefully we have time to kind of get an overview of the infrastructure that is in place for our emergency system. And I think Sheriff was gonna come in and kind of talk about that, and I'm sure he's booked. But that would be great. The second item I wanted to just kind of review or bring in front of the commission is Montezuma Creek. I know there was money spent at some point. I don't know how it happened, but Montezuma Creek has awesome streetlights. They've been there for a few years, and just last week I happened to realize a lot of those lights went out, and some of them are missing the actual lamps. I'm not sure if they're being shot at or what, but it's completely dark now. And so I think it would be awesome if we can just see how we can work on getting those lights repaired and Montezuma Creek lit back up. And I'll do my rounds this month at the local chapter meetings, just asking for the leaders to support me and pleading to the community. You know, the streetlights are back on, they'll be coming back on. Please be respectful.
Yeah.
We want them to last, and talk to your children. That's dollars that are important, and just showing that we're responsive and
Yeah.
getting that lit back up. So
I'll reach out to the Red Mesa NTUA.
awesome.
So those are interesting enough. Those are county streetlights. We just don't have a way to maintain them. We don't have a lift truck or anything to get people up in the air. NTUA has done that for us in the past. In the future, those lights will be incorporated in the roundabout project with UDOT. But meanwhile, let me contact the NTUA and get a cost of how much it'll take. We pay the utility bill on there.
Okay.
We've been trying to get rid of that and have it borne by the Navajo Nation, the chapters there, where we don't have authority or insurance coverage for our maintenance guys down there if they were to replace those lights. And so we've been put in a difficult spot. And the last I checked with NTUA is probably over a year ago, where they were going to maintain those for us and then just send us a bill. But that was the last I'd heard. So I'll follow up with them,
Okay.
see what I can get.
And if you need me at the table, I'm happy to help.
Okay.
So I'm glad to
Yeah.
help.
Okay.
And then finally, just confirming my interest for the committee.
Rack. Yeah, I'll get you on that.
Yep. And then we forgot to entertain that resolution because I was going to take that with me to that.
This will help.
But anyhow, yep, that's my report, commissioners.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sylvia.
Well, the thing I want to report basically is for the last few months we've been going to lots of training and lots of meetings where we do learn so much. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I think the most thing I'm grateful is for the association with the other commissioners. I can never experience an association where 100% they're so willing to help you and we can share the things we have in common. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to get to meet people that sometimes we can call, and if we need our help, they're ready to assist. And I had the opportunity to go to the Oljedo Monument Valley area. First, I had the opportunity to meet with the USU president and a group of people, representatives from the Oljedo chapter and in the area, Monument Valley, regarding the USU campus. And that was a really nice conversation. And in the following day, we went, Elaine Gisler and myself, when we talked about housing and inside the reservation. We learned a lot about the issues and the barriers that the people experience there, and we'll continue to keep going and trying to figure out ways. And we, as a Commissioner Allen and myself, had the opportunity to talk to the governor a little bit, and that was a lieutenant governor, and that was a wonderful opportunity because it was just a small group and got to express some of the concern for the on the reservation. I am working on a couple ideas that maybe next time I'll have something to report that will benefit our area, so thank you.
Okay, I am traveling today. I like the rest of you have been really busy. We hosted the CIB board last Thursday and Friday down here in San Juan County, and they're really appreciative of the hospitality and that's all I have to report. Do we need to go into executive session?
You do. Okay.
We have a motion to go into executive session.
Make a
Second.
motion.
Okay, Sylvia makes a motion, second by Jamie. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's three in favor.